Hello, I'm James Izimoha. Welcome to Africa News. Let's see your headlines. South Africa secures unanimous approval of the summit declaration in Johannesburg. Nigerians voice concern over worsening kidnappings and banditry in the country. Vote counting begins in Guinea-Bissau as President Umaro Sissoco Embalo seeks second term. Nigeria is once again in the spotlight as gunmen carry out deadly attacks, including mass abductions from schools and a brutal church assault. Here's the latest on the story so far.
Nigeria has again grabbed global headlines following a spate of attacks by gunmen involving mass kidnappings of students. And that has heaped more pressure on the government after US President Donald Trump threatened military action over the alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Here's what we know. On Friday, the Christian Association of Nigeria said at least 227 students and teachers had been taken from a Catholic school in the northwestern Niger state. That would make it the biggest kidnapping of schoolchildren in the country since March 2024. The first mass abduction since March 2024 took place on Monday. 25 students seized from a predominantly Muslim girls' boarding school in the northwest Kebbi state. On the same day, another armed gang abducted 64 people, including women and children, from their homes in Zamfara state, which borders Kebbi. On Tuesday, gunmen attacked a church in the central Kwara state, killing 2 and kidnapping 38 worshippers, according to a church official. The official said the gunmen had issued a ransom demand for roughly $69,000 per congregant. No one has publicly claimed responsibility. However, most of northern Nigeria is blanketed by insecurity. In the northwest, where most of the recent attacks have occurred, armed gangs known locally as bandits carry out ransom kidnappings and hide in forests. They have no known religious or political motives.
The fact of the matter remains, there's just a lot of money, right, to be made in this enterprise.
Ikemisit Effiong is a senior partner at the Lagos-based consultancy SBM Intelligence.
We have seen and noticed a situation where groups that were more ideologically coherent have completely flipped their operations to just, making money out of this practice in order to procure more weapons, secure a better, means of living for themselves.
In the northeast, jihadist groups Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa province are waging an insurgency. Over 2 million people have been displaced and tens of thousands killed over the past 15 years. In central Nigeria, where the mostly Muslim north meets the largely Christian south, there are deadly clashes over religion, ethnicity, and access to land and water. Nigeria says claims that Christians are facing persecution misrepresent the complex security situation and don't take into account efforts to safeguard religious freedom.
Defeat terrorism.
The country has 230 million people across around 200 ethnic groups, and tensions often flare. The US has said it is considering actions such as sanctions and Pentagon engagement on counter-terrorism. That's part of its plan to compel the Nigerian government to better protect Christian communities and religious freedom.
Still on insecurities in Nigeria, residents say they no longer feel safe in their own communities. Fresh fears follow a mass abduction in Niger State, where authorities have shut all schools and security forces search for more than 300 missing students and staff.
Nigerians are voicing rising alarm over worsening kidnappings and banditry, with residents in Abuja describing daily life marked by fear, especially after a mass abduction in Niger State triggered the closure of all schools. Authorities say more than 300 people were seized from St. Mary's Catholic School in one of the country's worst mass kidnappings, prompting the state governor to halt all educational activities as security forces race to rescue those taken. Residents say the unrelenting attacks have left families feeling exposed even in their own homes.
I don't think anybody feels safe aside me, I don't think anybody feels safe for what is happening in Nigeria presently, because the kidnapping, the bandits everywhere, the killing, everybody is so scared. Even to sleep, if you are sleeping now, I don't think people are sleeping with their eyes closed. If you hear any noise anywhere, you just wake up, because everywhere is not safe in Nigeria presently.
I think the government should try by all means to adopt a system whereby there will be security agencies that will be released to churches, schools, and other infrastructures that at least the people can be safe when they are around their place of duty and workplaces.
We've seen our old women being kidnapped, being robbed in this country that we call Giants of Africa. It's so bad. And the current government, they are not doing anything to what is happening.
Let them mobilize security agents, all the concerns. Let them make sure that insecurity is stopped in Nigeria. Some time ago, I had a foreign country planning coming to Nigeria to do something concerning it. And up till now, they are still killing and nothing is done. They should do something concerning it.
As rescue operations intensify and security deployments expand, communities now wait to see whether the government's next steps can restore confidence in a country struggling to contain escalating violence.
South Africa has notched a rare diplomatic win at the G20, securing unanimous approval of the summit declaration right at the start of the negotiations. The move, driven by President Cyril Ramaphosa, came despite the United States boycotting the gathering.
It was a defining moment for South Africa when the G20 reached unanimous agreement on the summit declaration at the very start of proceedings on Saturday, a rare procedural shift initiated by President Ramaphosa. A declaration was adopted without objection, despite the US's decision to boycott. South Africa's presidency has centered on pushing for a fairer global system by tackling inequality and driving development.
There has been overwhelming consensus and agreement that one of the other tasks we should undertake right at the beginning is to execute the task that we have come here for principally, which is, by overwhelming consensus, to adopt our declaration.
The US is next in line to take over the G20 chair, but refused to attend the Leaders' Summit. South Africa also declined a proposal for the US Chargé d'Affaires to conduct an observer-level handover, meaning the symbolic transfer of the presidency, normally done before the closing, will instead take place later in Pretoria.
The issue of handover, the President of the Republic of South Africa will not be handing over to the Chargé d'Affaires from the US. We will be handing over to the US in the DERCO offices or anywhere they may want us to arrange within the borders of the Republic of South Africa. We remain open, we are very cordial, and we are willing to cooperate to work with them.
Although there was some disagreement on climate change, South Africa secured strong backing from other nations for its commitment to multilateralism and rules based on global order. The United Kingdom, which follows the US in the rotation in 2027, is preparing to build on South Africa's groundwork.
There are some themes that run through the G20, of course, especially on the economic side. Global financial stability, how we deal with issues around debt, how we deal with trade liberalisation. And I think those are common themes that we will continue to see reflected through the G20, and they would be pretty certain will be reflected in our priorities in 27.
The Johannesburg legacy is especially critical for Africa, as it pushes to break free from crippling debt and assert a greater say in global governance.
Vote counting has begun in Guinea-Bissau after Sunday's presidential and legislative elections. President Umaro Sissoco Embalo is seeking a rare second consecutive term in a contest that could head to a runoff if no candidate passes 50%. Reports say early numbers are drawing public attention as voters weigh hopes for stability and development.
Okay.
Polling stations across Guinea-Bissau moved into public vote counting on Sunday evening, with officials in Nacra and Safim reading ballots aloud and recording results as residents watched. The early tallies offer an initial sense of voter sentiment in a tight race where President Embalo seeks another term against a challenger backed by the historic Independence Party, with a runoff looming if no clear majority emerges. Residents say the election has stirred hope for the future of the country.
No matter who wins, the country must not lose. I can't tell you who will lose. I hope it will be someone who is ready to move the country forward.
I hope for the best. I hope there will be a new government. I hope that whoever is elected for these 5 years will change the country. I hope that just as things have changed, they will continue in the same way.
I voted for Embalo because since he arrived, there have been no strikes in schools. Teachers are paid on time. All civil servants were paid properly these last 5 years. There are no school strikes. He builds roads. He brings water. He electrifies the country. And there has been no discrimination.
As counting continues and precincts report their figures, the country now waits to see whether these early signals point to a decisive outcome or a contested runoff that will shape Guinea-Bissau's next political chapter.
Rwanda is reshaping its justice systems with new reforms, allowing suspects to negotiate guilty pleas in return for reduced sentences. Officials say the approach is helping relieve pressure on overcrowded prisons, even leading to immediate releases in some cases. However, legal experts say the system must still safeguard the rights of all suspects.
Inside the Nyarugenge prison, one of Rwanda's largest correctional facilities, Chief Justice Domitila Mukanaganzwa meets inmates, not to hear their charges, but to brief them on the country's latest justice reforms. Her visit is part of a nationwide effort to promote alternative dispute resolution, particularly plea bargaining.
We are here to let you know about a justice system that is quicker, fairer, and reduces unnecessary delays. Plea bargaining is voluntary, but it gives you the chance to take responsibility, resolve your cases faster, and rebuild your lives.
For many here, that message could be life-changing. Rwanda introduced plea bargaining in late 2022, allowing suspects to negotiate guilty pleas in exchange for reduced sentences, thereby reducing long trial backlogs and easing pressure on the prison system. And results are quite significant. In just 2 years, more than 25,700 cases have been closed through plea bargaining, involving over 29,000 defendants. Of these, 27,000 were released immediately. It has also led to a 30% reduction in overcrowding across Rwanda's prisons. Rwanda has a long history of using alternative dispute resolution and community justice mechanisms, from Gacaca, which handled thousands of genocide-related cases, to today's plea bargaining, a continuation of efforts to make justice more accessible, efficient, and responsive. Legal scholar Dr. Alphonse Mrefu says these reforms address long-standing challenges in the justice system.
Rwanda justice system is confronted with mainly two related challenges. One is the backlog, the case backlog, meaning the number of cases that are received within the justice system are many compared to those that can be dealt in a reasonable time.
But as for any reform, it has come in for some criticism, particularly around its fairness and whether those who opt for it are actually doing so voluntarily. Critics say there are concerns about whether suspects fully understand their rights or feel pressured to plead guilty to benefit from plea bargaining. Plea bargaining may not solve every challenge, but for thousands, it has already changed the course of their lives and helped reshape Rwanda's justice system.
Well, that's all we have today in African News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.